Welcome everybody to today's Hope Project, Hope 1111 Project webinar. This is going to be less of the talk part. As you can see, Rennie is not with me today. He is preparing for a retreat we're doing this weekend, a 3-day retreat. So he needed to stay focused on that. So it's just me today. And what I wanted to do today before we go into the meditation, the hope meditation, which we do every month, is I just wanted to give you all a brief update, refresh on why we're doing this project and what it is all about. You know, we've been meeting for several months now and it's been pretty low key. And now that we're going into the second half of the year, we want to start ramping up some of the activities and preparations around it. And so I thought this would be a good opportunity for me to just, you know, get you all up to speed. My name is Kirsten Liegman, and I am one of the co-founders, along with my husband, Rennie Davis, of the Foundation for a New Humanity. And our mission, our goal is to see if we can wake up 100% in this lifetime. And we know that there is a group of humans in this world right now that have come here with that same mission of looking at how can we truly wake up 100%. There's a lot around this notion of awakening, the grand awakening, the grand transition, all of that is in our field right now. But what we're looking at is to say, okay, so if we're awakening, then what does it mean to be 100% awake? And so all of our work that we do focuses in on that one question and the qualities of a person who's 100% awake and the abilities that we have at 100% awake. So that's who I am, and that's the work that we are doing. And so this Hope Project fits into that mission very well, and I'll explain that in a moment. So as I was preparing and sitting quietly, a book popped into my head that probably all of you, most of you know as a movie that was produced here in this country. But as many of you know, I was born and raised in Germany, and in 1979, a book came out that in German is called Die Unendliche Geschichte. So everybody say that right now, Unendliche Geschichte. So, and here in the US, you all know it as the Neverending Story. And I was a voracious reader to begin with when I grew up. I loved books. I would go to the library I would ride my bike to the library, and I had a little basket in the back of my bike, and I would literally come back with a stack of 10 to 15 books for 1 month. I loved reading. And when this book came out, and if you guys have seen the book, I mean, it is a fat little sucker. I mean, it is a huge book, and I lived in that book for the entire time that I read it. I loved it. And really the premise of the book is that, well, there's this boy that gets bullied. He's a little overweight. You know, he's your typical little kid that doesn't quite fit in. He ends up, you know, running from bullies into this little bookstore and finds a book that is called The Neverending Story. And he ends up snagging the book and finding himself in the attic of his school, I believe, and starts reading it. And it's the story of this fantasy land called Fantasia. And Fantasia is facing a massive threat of a darkness that is called the Nothing that is enveloping the world. It is slowly sweeping across the world of this Fantasia world, and it consumes everything in its wake. And the reason I'm telling you about this story is that's what it feels like in some way in the world right now. We're witnessing a heaviness and a darkness that is creeping across the world, and it is consuming everything in its wake. Now, when I say darkness, I want to be really, really clear that I don't put a value judgment of evil on it. I want to be really clear about that. I will be speaking of darkness and light from a frequency perspective and a density perspective. So when there is density, when there is darkness, and the darkness that we are facing in this world right now is predominantly fear. Fear is what is coming across this world, and it is consuming, everything that is light. It is a fear that is mostly right now in the human subconscious. So a lot of people are not even aware that it is here. And then there's a lot of people that are feeling it on the conscious level, and it is coming out more and more and more. As we just had a collective fear of an experience that really connected humanity in a really interesting way, called the coronavirus, a virus that swept across the world and affected pretty much every country in the world in some fashion. And that caused a good amount of fear in the world. But there are other things that are happening in the world, be it climate change and people either understanding it on the intellectual level or knowing on the subconscious level that the earth is needing to rebalance. We are a species out of balance. The earth has gone out of balance, and she is going to rebalance. And we know that, and it is in our collective unconscious that that kind of fear sits. And then there's other things. I mean, the list is long. I mean, our science knows that there is a pole shift that is starting. The poles have already started moving a little bit. The sun's radiation energy, I mean, just walk outside and just tune in a little bit, and you can feel that the radiation from the sun feels different. It feels more intense, and I see it in my plants. They're struggling more with the sun. So, I could go on and on and on. And I'm not doing this to raise panic in any way, shape, or form. It's just to stand calmly in front of that which is showing up, and to understand that that is fueling a darkness in this world we call fear. And that fear is creating a density in this world that is palpable, and we are feeling that. So here's the good news. We live in a binary reality, meaning that there's always two sides of things, and those two sides will always attempt to balance themselves. So the darkness and the light will attempt to balance itself when one goes out of balance. We are seeing the binary reality expressing itself in the most intense way in the world right now. I mean, just in the US here, you just have to look at politics and you can understand binary reality. And it even goes to, this whole coronavirus thing. I mean, we have this thing called Nextdoor, which is sort of a localized Facebook, and somebody dared mention masks in one post. I swear that post went on for 200 comments, and it was, idiots who wear masks, idiots who don't wear masks, and it was just intense. I just scanned it. It was like, wow, talk about binary reality expressing itself, in that one little tiny itty microcosm, but it's, you can see it all over. So given that the density and the darkness is so out of balance, there are now these glimmers of lightness that are starting. You know, and so there's a lot of perceptual beliefs around that as well, which is part of the good news. When we put our perceptions to something in this holographic reality, it's the physics of this world. When we can put our perception to it, we draw it toward us. So, you know, there are these, you know, the Great Awakening is talked about, the Grand Transition is what I've heard, the Age of Aquarius, you know, the stars are going to help us make this transition, you know, the Golden Age is coming. I mean, there's all of these, you know, beliefs that are stacking up that are putting energy towards the light side, the less dense side. And that is a good sign, but it's still a tiny sliver compared to the immensity of the density and the darkness that is here in this world. And so the reason we decided to do this project is basically because a gift came in to us, and this gift is going to supercharging this glimmer of light that has started showing. Because if you think about it, you know, darkness is very dense and very heavy. Lightness is not so, is very, very light. So in order to balance and to create the balance, we have to supercharge this. We have to supercharge the light side. And so the gift that we received was a frequency that does not come from this galaxy. So this frequency is from a star, and you know, again, there's understanding that there is such a thing as a central sun that is outside of this galaxy, and that central sun has a frequency that is so pure, we call it electrical life in its purest form, that it can balance the frequency of darkness, the heaviness of darkness. It can dissolve it. And Rennie has in previous webinars explained how this, you know, how this frequency was received, basically. And it has to do with one of the abilities of us humans that we really haven't discovered yet. And that is, so we have a brain up here that is artificial intelligence, analytical, thinking through piece of, artificial intelligence. And then we have a mind. And the mind is something that we are just starting to discover. Mind is where your knowingness comes in. Mind is where your intuition and your creativity sits. It's where you are curious about something, and rather than having to think through it, you get the answer like that in 3D, full understanding, 1 nanosecond flash, and you have the full understanding of what it is that you're curious about. That is the potential of the mind. And we are starting to have the path laid in front of us to see if we can get to our mind. And so Rennie, using the mind, was able to travel to this central sun. And we all have this ability, so there's nothing really special about Rennie. He's just been able to develop this in an incredible way. So he was able to travel to the central sun, and one of his abilities is to record frequencies and then broadcast them again. And so that's how this frequency, we got this frequency. And we put that frequency into the Hope meditation. So in a moment, you will be experiencing that frequency. And as I said, it is just one of those most precious frequencies there is in this reality. It is the purest thing you can touch in this reality, and it will dissolve fear. It will dissolve fear in yourself when you can focus in on it. And what happens in the frequency, in the meditation that I have found, is you become so present that you understand where you're observing, where your fear is sitting. For me, it sits in the solar plexus a lot. I have a lot of, or I used to, I should say, have a lot of contraction in my solar plexus, and that would be where, that's where fear and worry and anxiety and stress would sit. And so what I do is I take the meditation, I go into the meditation, I observe the fear. I am not it. I just observe any little tweak. And then I take that frequency and I literally, it's almost like a hose that I imagine, and I just put it on that spot and I let the frequency dissolve it. And I am here to say it frigging works. It is absolutely amazing when you can be present and focused with what you're doing and be the observer of yourself, to see where are you tweaked, and then you take the frequency and you just hose it down and you see it dissolve. You know it's dissolving. Your perception makes it so, and that is the key. So when we go into the meditation in a moment, I invite you to use it to clean yourself out of this emotional debris. A lot of them are just ego memories. You know, you might have dealt with an ego, you know, you seen it and let it go, but why is it still, you know, why is the emotion still there? Well, it's because they're like, I call them like echoes. They're echoes still of that ego sitting in you, and this frequency will go after those, but you have to be aware of where it is. And so just let yourself see what is still inside of you, and then just, you know, really let it go, let it dissolve, and let yourself just feel the liberation that brings. Oh my God, it is absolutely amazing when you can go from feeling fear about something specific to all of a sudden it just fizzles and disappears. And it's like, wow, oh my God, I didn't even know that it could feel that way. I didn't even know that anxiety was such a baseline in me that I didn't even realize it was there. And all of a sudden now you don't have it. It's dissolved. And it's like, oh, now, okay, now I understand what liberation means. And this meditation can do that. This meditation has the power and the potential to let yourself free yourself from these emotional shackles. Really, that's what they are, these emotional shackles. And so I wanted to just briefly talk about presence, because that is the key to this. If you can become present, and I'm going to define presence for the sake of this conversation as quieting your brain. So just tune into yourself for a moment and see, are you actually fully present with me right now? Or is your brain sort of chattering over here and narrating, and, oh yeah, I have to remember later today, I have to do X, Y, Z. Just let yourself just notice, where are you at right now? Are you fully present, quietly listening, or is your brain active? And to go back to what I was saying right at the beginning, 100% awake means you're 100% present and 100% quiet brain. Now, it doesn't mean that you won't ever use your brain again. It just means that your brain now is a tool subservient to you as the inner royalty presence that you show up in the world. And you choose when you need to use your brain and when it goes off into its bay and gets shut off. That's what waking up means, is you take charge of your beingness, your inner being, and you only use the tools that you need in that moment. So the balance of power shifts. At the moment, your brain has the balance of power, and it's not like it's an evil thing. It's just, it needs to be on for you to feel awake, for you to feel alive, like you exist. That's one of the functions of the brain. It's helping you realize you exist. But as we wake up, we get to shift that, and all of a sudden our breath becomes one of the ways in which we can realize we exist. Your breath is your existence. The moment you can take charge of that perception, breath in, breath out, I exist. I exist. Brain doesn't need to tell me I exist anymore. And so you let that brain go quiet, and you get into such presence and focus. It's not zoning out. Presence is not zoning out. Presence is focus. You are focused and present. And when you're in that state, then seeing what's going on inside of you, scanning yourself, seeing where you're tweaked, seeing where the fear lies, seeing where the irritation lies, becomes much, much easier. And you don't have to be afraid of it or embarrassed about it or feel guilty that you've had these emotions. Like, no, you just see it. You see it, and then you use the tools of frequencies. This, especially this electrical life in its purest form, to just let it dissolve. That is taking charge of your inner being, of the core of your being. But you have to make a choice. And that is what is in front of us right now for all of humanity. So I have no assessment about any of these beliefs that we are going to be whisked into this great awakening, or into the fifth dimension, that it's just going to happen to us. The only thing I am going to speak here is that we are a choice. We have to choose evolution. We have to choose waking up if we want to wake up. It is part of waking up is to understand that the only thing we have is choice and free will. We must make the decision if that's where we want to go. And so that is in front of each of us. And so this hope meditation is so powerful for us individually. But then it takes it to this next level of, okay, so there's this darkness, the nothing that is sweeping this world. Can we then gift some back to the world? We were receiving this gift of electrical life in its purest form. Can we gift some back? Not to try to save the world. There's nothing about victim and savior and anything in this. It's just a gift of joy, a gift of life to the world. And so the hope meditation does that then. Once you are filled to the brim with this life, now you can send it out. Now you can send it out into the world to see if we can supercharge this light side to help balance the darkness, to bring balance back to the world. That is what the intention of the Hope 1111 project is. And so what we are hoping to do, what our vision is for the Hope 1111 project, at its core, at the very least, we're definitely going to do the meditation. And my vision, my hope, my goal is to have 1 million people do this together at the same time. I mean, holy moly, if we can do that, that would be amazing. But 100 people would be amazing. So I'm not attached to 1 million people. I think it's an amazing idea. And I'm hoping that over the course of the next half year, we will start building and building and building to that. But really, 100 people that can hold this frequency and send it out into the world actually can make a huge difference. And so on November 11th, at 11:11 Mountain Time, or 1:11 Eastern Time, is when we're gonna do this meditation. And really, you know, for me, just 1111 is just my, it's as you can see, it's a giggle number. It's an all is well number. You know, I know there's a lot around numerology and astrology around that date, and that is totally fine. For me personally, I just love seeing 4 ones in a row. And my body knows that I love seeing 4 ones or more in a row, and it'll make me look at clocks and anything when there is a 1111. I cannot tell you how often, you know, I'll look and, oh look, it's 11:11. You know, it's part of the joy of the body going, look, there's an 11:11. I know you enjoy that so much. But there is some significance around 1111 for a lot of people, and so that's why we chose November 11th, 11:11, and then the times when we're going to start the meditation at 11:11 Mountain Time. And so that is the core, the foundation, the anchor for the Hope 11:11 project. But then what we're hoping to do is to add some physical activity and some enjoyable experiences to that as well. And so what is on the drawing board right now is an interview series, like a little mini summit, mini symposium, where we're going to just have some interviews with people that are about awakening, that are about creating a new way of living on earth, so that we can hear, you know, different voices of, and the visions for where, you know, the vision for the field of possibilities that we're standing in front of, and how we can choose that. So that's going to be on one day. And then we are opening up conversations with a nonprofit, and I'm just thrilled about this, because, you know, at the beginning of the year, I thought, you know, one activity that would be just so incredible would be if we could, as humanity, step up and basically plant 1 tree per human being, you know, just to counteract the carbon that the CO2 that we're putting into the atmosphere. That would be one lovely way in which we all could come together and do an activity. And so that's been sitting there as a vision. And then, you know, a few months ago, I run into a nonprofit called 8 Billion Trees. Oh, well, go figure. Thank you for handling that one. And so we're opening up conversations with them to see if we can do some activity around planting 8 billion trees on that, you know, around 11:11 worldwide. So that I find really exciting. And then we're looking at having a virtual concert as well, to celebrate with some music. So those are some of the things that we are looking at, and we're starting to put energy and effort into around the whole event of Project Hope 11:11. And if anybody is interested in, you know, helping, we're looking for volunteers to take on certain, you know, tasks and help us with certain things. So if you're interested in supporting this project, we would absolutely love that. And if you wouldn't mind, you know, just emailing me if you're interested. It's Kirsten, Kirsten, at FFH, Frank House, or Foundation for Humanity.org. If you have any interest in playing and creating this project and making it an incredible just event where we, you know, take the nothing that is sweeping this world and just douse it with life, douse it with hope, douse it with light, then, you know, I would love to have you join and be part of that. It's always interesting to come out of these meditations and having to talk. See if you can stay in the feeling of it. So as we close up, notice if your attention immediately goes back to your brain and trying to think, and keep bringing it back into your body and in the sensations of what you just experienced. Yeah, the frequencies. So Kimberly just wrote pressure on my head. Yeah, the frequencies can cause pressure, especially where there is resistance in the body, which is why it's so important that we practice this meditation regularly. It's like conditioning the body. um, let's say you want to build muscle, you want to get stronger. You go to a gym and you start doing reps, and you start with, let's say, 10 pounds and work your way up more and more and more. And it's the same thing with the frequencies that are in this meditation. You have to get your body used to it. So if you noticed in the beginning, there was this the nervous system. There was the three frequencies to relax the muscles, then the nervous system, and then the skeleton. The reason the nervous system is so important is because it is where the frequencies run through your body. And so you need to get the nervous system used to these much, much higher frequencies than it's ever been used to. And the dilation of that nervous system is so important. And so, you want to keep doing this meditation again and again and again to condition yourself to hold higher and higher frequencies without the head pressure, without the nervous system it's firing. For me, my shoulders can get super itchy and bumpy. That's how my nervous system responds. So you keep practicing the meditation and letting the frequencies run through your body. And when you guys post, change the notice in the little black drop down from all panelists to all panelists and attendees, so we can all see it. So Alexa said, my mind started to wander and I took command over my attention. Congratulations, that's exactly what you want to be doing, is to know that you can, number one, and then just to command it. And the moment your brain wanders, you're coming back. And again, that is a practice as well. It's taking, lifetimes really, but, let's just look at this one lifetime of being in your brain and changing that patterning, and it'll take some practice to do it. So, the moment you make the commitment to do it and have the will to do it, you just, every time you're thinking, bring it back. So that's awesome. Hi, sunshine. Cool breezes swirling around me throughout the meditation. Nice. Yeah, it's just, and I want to just briefly speak to this notion of frequencies, because it is one of those areas that, some people, quote unquote, believe in, and some people don't believe in. And it's one of those things that, you can't see. Well, some people actually can see frequencies, but generally you don't see frequencies, you experience them. And our science has not yet come up with ways to measure it in consistent ways. And science wants consistency, and so it hasn't really acknowledged the power of frequency. But those of us who are in any domain where frequencies are important, be it medicine, health and well-being, even music, we understand that frequencies are incredibly powerful. We just have to become quiet enough and subtle enough to feel their effect. And that's how you can prove to yourself that frequencies are absolutely essential in this next leap in humanity. I mean, there's some people who are very, very sensitive to energies, and then there are people who are not very sensitive to energies. But the example that I always give is anybody can walk into a forest and feel what a forest feels like, and then walk into an inner city, high-rise city and feel that. Do you feel a difference? It would be hard pressed to find somebody who couldn't say, yeah, those two feel different. If you can feel the difference between those two, you can feel frequencies. And so from there, it just becomes subtler and subtler and subtler. So this electrical life in its purest form, frequency is incredibly subtle, but if you open up, if your nervous system is dilated and you are completely quiet and present, it ain't gonna be that subtle anymore, and you will start feeling those kinds of frequencies. Barbara, how does this compare to sound healing with tuning forks and bowls, etc.? I detected some of these in the meditation. Yeah, so the frequencies that we use to relax the muscles, the nervous system, and the bones are actually on the Hertz scale, which is the auditory, the frequencies that can be heard by your ears, on the auditory range. And so, let's see, the muscles are 128 hertz, nervous system is 64 hertz, and then the bones are 32 hertz. So there are audible frequencies. And later on, I don't know if you heard some of those, but like in the opening, there are frequencies that were done, and these were all recorded via tuning forks, that are in the 4,000 range. So much, much, much higher pitched, but still in the auditory range. And so, tuning forks, singing bowls, all of those are frequencies that are in the auditory range that can be measured on the Hertz scale, but they're incredibly healing to the body, especially, some very specific frequencies. But the frequencies that we work with then beyond that, like when we bring in your authentic self, pure electrical life in its purest form, the frequency of the earth, those are all frequencies that are not on the Hertz scale. Those are what we call subtle energies. And those are the ones that our modern science hasn't figured out yet how to measure, and so they believe it doesn't exist. There are scientists that have been able to start measuring them, and there is one in particular that we work with in Ashland, Oregon, Yuri Kron, a Russian scientist who is probably the foremost authority in subtle energies. He is able to capture frequencies of anything, and we do, stones, the frequency of intelligent minerals, anything, and capture them and then amplify them and then reinfuse them into, clean matrices like a Swarovski crystal. And, those become healing tools that you can wear 24/7, for instance, or we can put them into meditations like this. So that's what the difference is between those, the Hertz scale, not subtle energies that are not on the Hertz scale. So it's really important to understand how potent and powerful frequencies are. And, we're just at the place that people 100 and 200 years ago were, that didn't believe that something that we couldn't see on our hands called germs could cause illness. I mean, it took 100 years after germ theory was put in play, was posited, that it was actually put into our hygiene code. And in the beginning, when Dr. Lister, said, let's wash our hands before we go from the cadaver room to the birthing room, he was laughed out of the room for a while. And now everybody knows that viruses, bacteria, germs can be on your hands, and you better wash your hands. And it's the same with frequencies. We're at that place where you just can't see it yet, and therefore, we don't acknowledge that they exist, nor that they have any importance, and they're gonna become essential for healing, for waking up, for anything that we want to do in a new way of living on earth. Growing plants, I believe that there's an important aspect to growing plants with frequencies, and it's just this wonderful world of of magic that we're sitting in front of, and we get to unpack now. And I'm just so excited. And I come from the more the thicker membrane, so I couldn't feel frequencies very much. And doing these meditations again and again, and practicing and opening my nervous system, I am now feeling them a lot more, and it's a whole world for me. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that aspect in, so that you could also understand the role of frequencies, and this particular frequency of electrical life in its purest form. It is, Rennie keeps struggling to impart how unique, how powerful, how important, how pure this frequency is. And he keeps saying, I don't think I'm doing it justice. I don't think I'm getting across how important this frequency is, and what a precious, precious gift this frequency has been, and is. Well, with that, let's wrap up for today. Thank you all so much for coming. I mean, as I said, when we do these with a group, oh my God, there's just such an amplification that happens that I just find so delicious, and I just so enjoy coming on and doing these with all of you. And I hope you all feel that. And if you don't have the meditation yourself, you can go to ffh.org/hope 1111 and get the meditation and do it regularly. And let's see if we can, get to 1 million people. This requires all of us to share this gift with others. And I know it's a little out there, this notion of central sun and frequencies and all of that. Just share what it's doing for you and how it's changing you, how you feel after you do the meditation. And then, let us do the explanation. So, do invite, more people. And our next webinars are going to be 8/8. So today is 7/7. So the next one is going to be 8/8, 9/9, 10/10, and then 11/11. So we're ramping up, and the schedule is on the webpage, the ffh.org /hope 1111. And yeah, I hope to see you in a month, and much love to you all. Take care.